Alright, here we go, continuing our 16th note, single note picking, 60 beats per minute. Number 1, working on the ascending stuff, so just be extra careful to make sure that those final 16th notes come out very clear prior to changing the strings. 1, 2, 3, 4. 100, well, I'll go 90. Yeah, that'll be better. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Under 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wrong note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 150. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And since you're getting up pretty quick, let's go ahead and do a faster speed too. 180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes I get a slight palm beat on stuff like this. Helps me play a little bit better. And it certainly helps force that downward slant to make changing strings on something like this a little bit more clean. But let's say, just for the hell of it, I don't know if we talk much about this. Let's say I'm doing 250. I'm hitting the other strings as I change. There's no way of getting around it. See how my hand's curled over like this? You have to mute very, very well with the fretting hand when you play those kinds of speeds, because there's no way you're going to be able to change strings without hitting other stuff. It's just not possible. Alright, number 2, 60 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. You may want to exaggerate the final upstroke prior to changing the string. So right here, you can exaggerate the upstroke to really make sure that you get it. And then as you get faster, you won't be able to exaggerate so much, but hopefully it carries over into the faster speeds. 90 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. I missed the string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 150. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 3. 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 150. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, yes, I said I was going to go over the mode stuff, didn't I? Let me bring those things up here, and then we'll talk about it. Circle, take it out. Why didn't that open? There it is. And numbers. Okay. And change the display. All right. So, looked at this a bit yesterday, so just to recap that, I like to look at the notes we have in scale laid out in a circle. So we have just 7 notes that we're using in key. Yeah, there are other scales out there that have less or more notes, but we're going to focus on what comes from a major scale. For me, major scale is the most important scale because that's where pretty much all our theory comes from. You know, the minor scale is found within the major scale. Phrygian mode, Dorian mode, all these kinds of things are found by changing the major scales, but we'll get to that later. The main thing right now, it's like this was to show that you can go up the notes, backwards, jump across the circle any which way, you're still playing the same 7 notes. So when it comes to making up solos, writing music, whatnot, it doesn't matter what scale shape you use so long as you're doing it in key, if the goal is to be in key. I say that because plenty of the stuff you and I listen to is not in any specific key. However, when it comes to improvising a guitar solo, it's good to know what key you're in, and then you use any of the scale shapes found within that key. So, like Iron Maiden stuff is very much in the key of E minor, A minor, some of it's in D minor. If you look at it from the major scale perspective, then a lot of their stuff is in the key of C, key of G, and key of F. We'll be looking at that stuff a lot. So anyway, so yeah, when you go from the first note, and from any note really, and if you go up a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, you just played your major scale, also known as the Ionian mode. If you start on the second note in, and you go around the circle, end up on the second note again, that's the Dorian mode. Start on the third note in, go around your whole steps and half steps, that's the Phrygian mode. So that's kind of what's being shown down here, just in a different format. So major scale formula, starting from any note, you go up the whole step, half step, whole, half, that's a major scale. So having things stacked this way is just to show how closely related everything is. So when you're going through those scale shapes in key, you don't really hear the mode. And that just sounds like you're going up the scale in a very long-winded way. So as far as looking at, hang on, we'll get into more detail with this stuff eventually. As the weeks progress here, we certainly will. So looking at your mode laid out on one string, you can see that we have 7 interval numbers. So we're talking about intervals, we're talking a distance. So the 1 basically is no distance. That's your start, okay? So when we say a second interval, also known as a major second, that is always a whole step up from something, okay? So we just have the notes of the major scale laid out. So going up whole step, half step, whole, half step brings us to an octave of the root note. So anytime you deviate from this, that's when you get flat or sharp intervals. So if you look at Dorian, the third dot here, or the third note, is a half step lower than this. That's why it's a flat third. So from here, you go up a whole step, half step, that's a minor third distance, or a flat third. When you go up 2 whole steps, that's a major third. So the 7th interval is always a half step below the octave of the root, or you can simplify it and just say the 7th interval is always a half step below the root. Well, this is a whole step below the root. That's because it's a flat 7, also known as a minor 7. So you look at Phrygian, it's got more stuff. That's got a flat 2nd, very characteristic. Very commonly used metal interval there, just going up, like going from the E note to the F note. This is an F to a G flat, but anyway, just saying that for example. But yeah, Phrygian's got a flat 2nd, flat 3rd, 6, and 7. Lydian, the only difference between Lydian and Ionian is it has a sharp 4. Only difference between Ionian and Mixolydian is this flat 7. Your minor scale, or the Aeolian mode's got a flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7. Locrian, everything except the 4 is flat. And yes, the 1 is not flat either, but if you flat the 1, you just have a new 1. So, definitely let me know if you got questions with that stuff. We will certainly talk about it more in the coming weeks. So the other thing that I sent is the scale shapes, but you have interval numbers instead. And then next to the mode names, you have the unique intervals found within the modes. So I like having this. It helps you see what's unique about each mode. So let's say if I wanted to take Dorian here and make it major again, I'd take the flat 3s and the flat 7s and raise them up a half step, and then you change that back into Ionian. So yeah, relearning the 3 notes per string scale shapes, definitely a good idea. 1 at a time is best, so make sure you got that C scale down, committed to memory before you go on to the D Dorian, and then make sure you have both of those committed to memory before you add in E Phrygian and so on. Big mistake a lot of people make. They try and learn too many at once, and that maybe they'll like get to the 4th scale shape, and then they've forgotten like the 2nd or the 3rd one. So if that ever happens, you got to just go back and stop working on the 4th shape and just get those first 3 down. So yeah, just take your time with it. No rush on it. 1 shape at a time is the best approach. So if any questions come up, let me know. I will see you next week.